The massive view screen in Earth's High Command Center displayed the approaching Imperial diplomatic vessel. Its gleaming hull reflected the light of Sol as it decelerated toward the orbital meeting point. Admiral James Reed stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face betraying none of the anxiety churning in his stomach. "They're hailing us, sir," reported Lieutenant Bell from her communication station. Reed nodded. On screen, the image shifted to reveal Ambassador Torque of the Galactic Empire. The alien's purple-tinged skin and 4 eyes were familiar to humans after 50 years of official contact, but the ambassador's expression was one Reed had never seen on an Imperial before. Confusion mixed with irritation. "Admiral Reed," Torque began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into smooth English. "There must be some mistake. Our trade fleet is being denied approach vectors by your defense grid." "No mistake, Ambassador," Reed replied evenly. "As of 600 hours Earth Standard Time, the United Earth Government has enacted Protocol 7, a full quarantine of the Sol system against all Imperial ships, personnel, and technology." A moment of silence followed as Torque processed this information. Then came a sound that Reed recognized as Imperial laughter. "Admiral, surely you jest. The Empire spans 10,000 worlds. We have guided your species to the stars. Without our technology, you would still be confined to your single world." Reed didn't blink. "We're aware of our technological debt, Ambassador. We're also aware of what that technology has been doing to our planet and our people." Torque's upper eyes narrowed. "I don't understand your meaning." "Project Lighthouse," Reed said, nodding to Bell, who transmitted a data packet to the Imperial ship. "For the past 20 years, Earth scientists have been studying Imperial tech, finding what was hidden beneath the surface." On a secondary screen, Reed could see the data scrolling. Detailed analysis of the microscopic neural manipulators in Imperial communication devices, the resource extraction algorithms embedded in their helpful AI assistants, and the slow-acting terraforming agents that had been gradually altering Earth's atmosphere to better suit Imperial biology. "These accusations are absurd," Torque said, but Reed noticed the slight color change in the alien's skin, a sign of stress their cultural training had revealed. "We've been good students, Ambassador," Reed continued. "We learned everything you offered, and then we learned what you were hiding. The Empire has been preparing Earth for full colonization from the beginning." Captain Mark Davis stepped forward, holding a simple metal box. "This device contains 100% Earth-developed technology. No Imperial components or influence. Our own scientists created it by going back to pre-contact principles and building from there." Torque's dismissive gesture was clear in any culture. "Primitive toys don't concern us, Captain. This toy detected the quantum manipulation signals being broadcast from your embassy, signals that have been subtly influencing our leaders for decades," Davis explained. "We've built a shield against them now. Your people lack the capacity to." "Earth is now closed to Imperial business," Reed interrupted. "Effective immediately. Your diplomatic staff has 48 hours to depart. Any Imperial vessels approaching after that time will be considered hostile." Ambassador Torque's demeanor shifted from condescension to cold calculation. "The Emperor will not accept this. Rebellion." "This isn't rebellion, Ambassador," Reed replied. "It's independence. We've discovered what your gifts actually cost, and we're declining further assistance." As the Imperial diplomat began to protest, Reed made a cutting motion across his throat, and Bell terminated the connection. "Send the quarantine notice to all Earth governments and colonies," Reed ordered, "and alert Defense Grid Command. We'll have visitors soon, and they won't be coming to talk." Outside the viewpoint window, Earth spun peacefully below, its people unaware that their world had just challenged the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. Emperor Vex's throne room fell silent as the holographic message from Earth concluded. The massive chamber, with its soaring crystal ceiling that displayed the conquered galaxies, had never felt so tense. The ruler of 10,000 worlds sat motionless, his six-fingered hands gripping the armrests of his ancient throne. "They dare," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They dare to reject us." High General Morden stepped forward, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the light of 1,000 stars. "My Emperor, this is unprecedented. No world has ever enacted a full quarantine against the Empire after receiving our gifts." "Because no world has been foolish enough to try," hissed Science Director Pell from her hovering platform. Her species lacked legs, but her brain had made her invaluable to the Empire for 3 centuries. "The humans have somehow detected our integration protocols. This should not be possible with their level of technology." Vex stood suddenly, causing his advisors to step back. At 8 feet tall, the Emperor towered over most species in his realm. "Show me their defensive capabilities." A new hologram appeared in the center of the room, displaying Earth's solar system and the network of defense platforms they had established. "As you can see," explained military analyst Dorn, pointing to the glowing dots surrounding Earth and its moon, "they have created a basic defense grid. Nothing our military cannot handle." Vex moved closer to the display, studying it. "These readings make no sense. Some of these stations appear to be using technology we haven't shared with them." "Impossible," Pell insisted. "All technology we provide to developing worlds contains limiters. They cannot adapt it beyond our permitted parameters." "Yet they claim to have built devices free of our influence," Vex mused. "How?" The room fell silent again until Trade Minister Lox cleared his throat. "There is something unusual about humans we've noted in our reports. They possess an extraordinary drive to tinker. They modify everything we give them, often breaking it in the process, but sometimes improving it." Vex finished, his eyes narrowing. "Or creating something entirely different," Lox confirmed. "Our cultural analysts considered it a harmless quirk." General Morden stepped forward again. "Regardless, my Emperor, this defiance cannot stand. If Earth successfully breaks away, other worlds might attempt the same. I recommend an immediate show of force." "I agree," said Vex, returning to his throne. "But not a full invasion fleet. That would draw too much attention from the other developing worlds. Send battlecruiser Eternal Glory. It should be more than sufficient to remind these humans of their place." "And if they resist?" asked Pell. Vex's mouth curled into what passed for a smile in his species. "Then Captain Grex has permission to disable their primitive defense grid and establish a blockade until they come to their senses." As the advisors bowed and began to leave, Vex gestured for Pell to remain. "There's something we're missing," he said once they were alone. "How did they discover our integration protocols?" Pell's hover platform moved closer. "Unknown, my Emperor. The neural manipulators are undetectable even to species centuries more advanced than humans. Yet they found them." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Access the reports from all our Earth observation posts. I want to know every anomaly, every unexpected development from the past 20 years. You suspect something specific. Humans are supposed to be predictable, greedy for advancement, easily guided. But these actions are strategic, calculated." Vex leaned back, his ancient eyes troubled. "They were planning this for years, Pell, right under our surveillance." As Pell departed, Vex turned to gaze at the holographic display of Earth, a small blue planet that somehow had managed what no other world had dared in 50 millennia of imperial expansion. "What else are you hiding?" he whispered to the rotating image of the defiant world. Aboard the Eternal Glory, Captain Grex received his orders with satisfaction. The humans would learn their lessons soon enough. The Imperial battle cruiser Eternal Glory emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its massive hull gleaming against the backdrop of distant stars. On the command deck, Captain Grex surveyed the tactical display with confidence. At nearly 2 miles long, his vessel was considered a small ship by Imperial standards, but still dwarfed anything humans had ever built. "Scans complete, Captain," reported First Officer Zulo, her scaled skin shimmering under the bridge lights. We detect 17 defense platforms along our approach vector. Primitive weapon systems, mostly kinetic and low-grade energy weapons. Grex made a dismissive gesture with 3 of his arms. As expected, open a channel to their command. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human female with dark skin and short gray hair. Her uniform bore the insignia of Earth Defense Command. Imperial vessel, this is Commander Olivia Martinez of Earth Defense Grid Alpha. You have entered a quarantine system. Reverse course immediately. Grex leaned forward, allowing his translator to pick up his words. Commander Martinez, I am Captain Grex of the Imperial Navy. Your planet's declaration of quarantine is not recognized by the Galactic Empire. We are here to correct this misunderstanding. Martinez's expression remained neutral. There is no misunderstanding, Captain. Earth has revoked the Empire's access rights to this system due to documented violations of our sovereignty. This is your only warning. Turn back now. Murmurs rippled across the bridge as Imperial officers exchanged glances. No developing species had ever spoken to an Imperial captain with such boldness. Your defiance is noted, Grex said coldly, but perhaps you fail to understand your situation. The Eternal Glory carries enough firepower to reduce your entire defense grid to atoms. The Emperor has ordered me to restore proper relations between our civilizations, and I will do so. Martinez didn't blink. We understand perfectly, Captain. Do you? She nodded to someone off-screen. Then the transmission ended. Arrogant creatures, Zulo muttered. Prepare approach vector, Grex ordered. Weapons on standby, shields at maximum. We'll disable their primary defense nodes first as a demonstration. The massive cruiser began moving deeper into the system, its engines pulsing with blue-white energy. On tactical displays, the Earth defense platforms began tracking the vessel but made no hostile moves. They're scanning us, Captain. The sensor officer reported. Unusual frequencies, patterns I've never seen before. Grex dismissed the concern with a wave. Their primitive technology is no threat. Maintain course. As they passed the orbit of Neptune, a small satellite previously undetected by Imperial scanners suddenly activated. It emitted no energy their sensors could identify, but a strange ripple seemed to pass through the ship. Captain, the engineering officer called out in alarm. Something's interfering with our shield harmonics. Before Grex could respond, 12 of Earth's defense platforms fired simultaneously. Instead of conventional weapons, they released what appeared to be simple projectiles that moved at relatively low speeds. Laughable, Zulo commented. Even without shields, those would barely. Her words died as the projectiles suddenly accelerated to near-light speed just before impact. They passed through the Imperial shields as if they weren't there and struck the cruiser at precise points along its hull. The bridge shook violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Impossible, Grex roared. Damage report. Engine control systems hit with precision strikes, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Weapons guidance disabled. Communications array damage. They knew exactly where to hit us. On the main screen, Commander Martinez reappeared, her expression still calm. Captain Grex, your vessel has been disabled but not destroyed. We've taken care to avoid casualties. A tug ship will arrive shortly to escort you back to the system boundary. You may use your emergency systems to transmit a message to your Emperor. She leaned closer to the camera. Tell him this. Earth isn't just refusing Imperial technology. We've developed our own. The phase shift projectiles that disabled your ship can't be blocked by your shields because they temporarily exist in a different dimensional state, something your scientists thought was theoretical. As the screen went dark, Grex stared at his crippled command displays in disbelief. The humans hadn't just discovered the Empire's secrets. They had created weapons the Empire itself didn't possess. The Imperial Palace's communication hub buzzed with frantic activity. News of the Eternal Glory's humiliating defeat had spread through secure channels, causing panic among the Empire's leadership. Emperor Vex stood silently before the massive data wall, watching as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. "The damage control protocols are active, my Emperor," said Media Director Krell, his 6 eyes blinking nervously. "We've released the official story that the Earth incident was merely a training exercise." Vex turned, his expression dangerous. "And who will believe that when Captain Grex's ship limped back to Outpost 7 with holes punched through its command systems? We've restricted all footage and quarantined the crew," Krell assured him. "As far as the general population knows, humans remain primitive clients grateful for Imperial guidance." Intelligence Director Mara approached, her humanoid appearance making her valuable for operations involving Earth. "I'm afraid there's a complication, Emperor. Our information suppression is being countered." She gestured, and a holographic display showed dozens of transmission sources across the galaxy, all originating from supposedly primitive worlds. "What am I looking at?" Vex demanded. "Someone is broadcasting the truth about the Earth incident," Mara said grimly. "Not just to nearby systems, but to every developing world in our sphere. They're using communication protocols we can't block because they don't use Imperial technology." Vex's expression darkened. "The humans." "Yes," Mara confirmed. "But they couldn't possibly have this kind of reach on their own. They must have allies." In a nondescript office aboard Orbital Station Gamma, Director Thomas Wilson of Earth's Special Diplomatic Corps studied a similar map. Around the table sat representatives from a dozen species, none of whom should have been able to reach Earth without Imperial knowledge. "The truth broadcasts are reaching 80% of target systems," reported Nyx, a small furry being from a world called Halaris. "The Empire is trying to jam our signals, but they can't identify our transmission method." Wilson nodded, satisfied. 3 years of building this network, and they never suspected a thing. "How are the responses looking?" A reptilian being named Vaz flicked her tongue before answering. 17 worlds have already established secure contact using the quantum entanglement devices you provided. They're eager to learn how Earth broke free from Imperial control." "And the Imperial propaganda?" Wilson asked. "Failing," said Lieutenant Rodriguez, who monitored the Imperial information networks. "They claimed the Eternal Glory incident was a training exercise, but we've leaked the actual combat footage. The Empire looks weak, and that's something their subject worlds have never seen before." Wilson stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. The Empire's greatest weapon was never their military. It was the belief that they were invincible and all-knowing. We've shattered that illusion. "They'll retaliate," warned Vaz. "They always do when worlds resist." Wilson turned back to the group with a slight smile. "We're counting on it. But this time, they'll find themselves fighting on multiple fronts." In his private chambers, Emperor Vex reviewed the latest intelligence reports with mounting fury. Not only had Earth somehow developed technology beyond Imperial understanding, but they had apparently been building relationships with other subject worlds for years. "How did we miss this?" he demanded of Science Director Pell. "They used our own methods against us," Pell admitted reluctantly. "While our observers watched their official channels, they were communicating through means we never thought to monitor. Old radio technologies we considered obsolete, physical messengers, even primitive coded transmissions hidden in commercial data. The diplomatic pouches," Vex realized suddenly. "We never scanned their diplomatic materials because we assumed they were primitive cultural artifacts." Pell nodded grimly. "They were smuggling quantum entanglement devices to other worlds, technology they shouldn't have been able to develop for centuries." On the display screen, more and more worlds began showing signs of unrest as Earth's message spread. The Empire was not all-powerful. Its technology could be defeated. Its control could be broken. "Begin immediate information containment," Vex ordered. "Any world showing signs of rebellion gets a military presence, and prepare a proper fleet for Earth. This time, we won't just disable their defenses. We'll make an example of them that no world will forget." But even as he spoke, Reports of Imperial communication networks failing across 3 sectors made it clear the information war had already begun, and Earth was winning. Major Ryan Taylor hunched over his desk in the dim light of Earth's Counterintelligence Division headquarters, studying the holographic display of the latest security breach. 3 red dots pulsed near Jupiter's orbit, marking the locations where unknown ships had briefly appeared before vanishing from sensors. "They're getting more creative," observed Lieutenant Mason, sliding a cup of coffee across the desk. "This is the 3rd incursion attempt this week." Taylor nodded grimly. "The Empire doesn't take rejection well." He enlarged one section of the display, revealing a small transport vessel that had been captured near Mars. "Any progress on our visitors?" "That's why I'm here, sir. The lab just finished their analysis." Mason activated a secondary display showing cellular scans. "They look human on the outside, but the genetic markers tell a different story." Taylor walked to the window overlooking the sprawling complex of New Geneva. Far below, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the shadow war being fought beyond Earth's atmosphere. "How many infiltrators do we think have already made it through?" he asked. "Intelligence suggests at least 15 have reached Earth," Mason replied. "But thanks to Dr. Patel's quantum resonance scanner, we've identified 12 already. They're being monitored rather than apprehended." Taylor raised an eyebrow. "Feeding them false information." "Exactly, sir. We're letting them report back about non-existent weaknesses in our defense grid." The doors slid open, and Dr. Amara Patel entered, her lab coat wrinkled from another all-night research session. She carried a small device that resembled an ordinary tablet. "Major, we've upgraded the QR scanners," she announced without preamble. "The new version can detect Imperial agents from up to 50 meters away, even through walls." Taylor took the device, examining it with appreciation. "The Empire spent centuries perfecting their biological disguises. How did you crack it so quickly?" Patel smiled tiredly. "They're too perfect, that's how. Normal human DNA has variations, mutations, imperfections. Imperial clones have unnaturally clean genetic sequences. But more importantly, they all carry quantum entanglement markers at the cellular level. That's how they communicate instantly across space." "Their greatest strength became their weakness," Mason observed. "Precisely," Patel agreed. "We're distributing these scanners to all major population centers tonight. By morning, we'll have identified every Imperial agent on Earth." In the lavish Imperial Embassy, officially closed but still maintained by a skeleton crew of diplomatic staff awaiting transport, Commander Drek received the latest reports from his field agents. His human disguise was perfect down to the smallest detail, the result of generations of Imperial infiltration technology. "Our operatives have identified several weaknesses in the Earth defense grid," he told the small hologram of Emperor Vex. "Sectors 7 and 12 appear vulnerable to a concentrated assault." The Emperor's expression remained neutral. "And their new technology? Have you discovered how they developed it?" Drek hesitated. "Not yet, Your Majesty. Their security around research facilities is extraordinarily tight. However, we've placed agents in their military command structure who should soon have access." "Time grows short, Commander," Vex warned. "The rebellion spreads with each passing day. Other worlds watch Earth closely. We must crush this defiance quickly." "We will not fail," Drek assured him, bowing low. As the transmission ended, his second-in-command entered the room. "Sir, 3 more of our agents have gone silent," she reported. "That makes 7 in the past 12 hours." Drek frowned. "Equipment malfunction." "Unlikely. I believe they've been compromised." A sharp knock at the door interrupted them. Drek's hand moved to the concealed weapon at his waist. "Embassy is closed," he called out. "Security inspection," came the reply. "New protocol requires all diplomatic residences to be scanned for quantum anomalies." Drek and his subordinate exchanged alarmed glances. The humans couldn't possibly know. The door burst open. A team of Earth security personnel swarmed in, led by Major Taylor. Each carried what looked like a simple tablet, but the devices were all aimed at the Imperial agents. "Commander Drek," Taylor said calmly, "or whatever your real name is. Your quantum signature is quite distinctive, as are those of all 32 Imperial agents we've just identified across Earth." Drek's perfect human facade couldn't hide his shock. "Impossible. Our disguises are flawless." Taylor smiled slightly. "Your disguises are perfect. That's exactly how we found you. No human is perfect." He gestured to his team. "Secure them all. And make sure to isolate their communication implants. We wouldn't want the Emperor to lose more agents without knowing exactly how it happened." As they were led away, Drek realized the Empire had made a catastrophic miscalculation. The humans hadn't just discovered Imperial technology. They had found ways to turn it against its creators. Commander Anna Mitchell stood before the United Earth Council, her uniform crisp despite having worked for 36 hours straight. The large chamber was filled to capacity, representatives from every nation watching intently as she updated the holographic display. "The Empire has begun its economic offensive," she explained, pointing to the glowing trade routes now blocked by Imperial warships. "As of 600 hours, they've cut off all approved supply lines to our outer colonies. Mars and Europa are already reporting shortages of specialized materials." General Harris, head of the Earth Defense Force, leaned forward. "How long can our colonies hold out?" Mitchell's expression remained calm. "Indefinitely, General." Murmurs of surprise filled the chamber. "Perhaps you should explain," prompted President Chen, her eyes narrowing slightly. Mitchell nodded and pressed a control on her wrist device. The holographic display transformed, revealing a complex network of routes, outposts, and facilities that sprawled across nearby star systems. Most were represented by blinking green dots in locations far from the established Imperial trade corridors. "Operation Shadow Web," Mitchell said. "For the past 15 years, Earth has been establishing secret mining operations, manufacturing facilities, and supply depots throughout this sector of space." Defense Minister Rivera stood up. "This is impossible. The Empire monitors all space traffic. They would have detected these operations." "Not if we never used Imperial-approved flight paths or technologies," Mitchell countered. She gestured, and a small, unremarkable-looking ship appeared in the display. "This is the Wilson-class stealth freighter. It uses no Imperial technology whatsoever. Instead, we reverted to pre-contact principles and then advanced them along different lines." The council chambers grew silent as the implications sank in. "You built an entire shadow economy," President Chen said finally, "right under the Empire's nose." Mitchell's expression remained professional, but a hint of pride showed in her eyes. "We did more than that, Madam President. We established self-sufficient colonies that have never appeared in any official record. The Empire believes they're cutting us off from crucial resources, but we haven't relied on their trade networks for essential materials in over a decade." In the Imperial Palace on Centrum Prime, Trade Minister Lux faced Emperor Vex's wrath as the latest reports came in. "Explain this," Vex demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. "Why are there no signs of economic distress on Earth or its known colonies? Our blockade is absolute." Lux's skin had paled to an unhealthy shade. I cannot explain it, Your Majesty. By all calculations, their industrial capacity should be crippled by now. They should be begging for negotiations." Science Director Pell floated forward on her platform. "Their resource consumption patterns make no sense. According to our monitoring stations, Earth's official imports have dropped by 94%, yet their manufacturing output remains stable." "They stockpiled," suggested General Morton. "A temporary measure at best." "No stockpile would last this long," Pell countered. "And our deep space sensors are detecting unusual traffic in sectors we previously considered empty." She displayed a star chart showing faint movement patterns between seemingly unimportant star systems. Vex studied the display, his ancient eyes narrowing. They built their own supply network. Impossible, Lox protested. Developing species cannot hide such activities from us. Our monitoring systems only detect what they're programmed to recognize. Vex interrupted. If the humans develop truly independent technology, operating on principles we don't use ourselves. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications became clear. Back on Earth, in a classified facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Howard Phillips guided a group of newly allied alien representatives through a massive manufacturing complex. This is just one of 50 such facilities, he explained to the amazed visitors. We built them all using Earth-developed technology, freed from Imperial influence or detection. A tall, blue-skinned being named Troll stepped forward. My world wishes to learn this independence. The Empire has controlled our resources for generations. Phillips smiled. That's why you're all here. Earth isn't just fighting for itself. We're creating a template that any world can follow. He led them to a secure room where Commander Mitchell waited. The wall displayed a real-time map of the spreading rebellion. 27 worlds now openly defying Imperial economic controls, implementing Earth's shadow economy protocols. The Empire thought cutting us off would bring us to our knees, Mitchell told the assembled aliens. Instead, it's freeing more worlds every day. They built a system where everyone depends on them. But we've shown the galaxy how to break those chains. Phillips finished. As the alien representatives examined Earth's economic independence plans with wonder, Mitchell received a priority alert. The Empire had finally realized its economic warfare was failing. A massive battle fleet was now assembling. The final confrontation was coming. The observation deck of Freedom Station hung in space at the edge of the Sol system, its transparent dome offering a spectacular view of the stars. Admiral James Reed stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching as ships from 30 different worlds moved into formation around Earth's defense fleet. Never thought I'd see this day, said Professor Elena Miller as she joined him at the viewport. The xenoanthropologist's work had been crucial in deciphering imperial cultural patterns years ago, giving Earth the first hints of the Empire's true intentions. Reed nodded. The Free Systems Alliance has a nice ring to it. Below them, the main diplomatic chamber was filling with representatives from worlds that had broken free from Imperial control. Some were humanoid, others utterly alien in form, but all shared the same determined expression. The Emperor's fleet is holding position at the boundary line, reported Captain Davis as he approached with a data tablet. 500 ships, including 3 planet crackers. Reed's face remained impassive. And our defensive capabilities. The phase shift grid is fully operational. All Allied vessels have been equipped with our shield harmonics. If they attack, they'll find it's not just Earth they're facing anymore. Professor Miller studied the tactical display with interest. They won't attack, she said with quiet confidence. Both military men looked at her questioningly. The Empire has existed for 50,000 years because it understands power, she explained. Real power isn't about having the biggest fleet or the most devastating weapons. It's about control, cultural, technological, psychological. We've broken that control not just for ourselves, but for dozens of worlds. The Empire can't afford to make martyrs of us now. As if summoned by her words, a communication officer hurried over. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial flagship. Emperor Vex himself is requesting to speak with Earth's leadership. Reed exchanged glances with Miller. Put it through to the diplomatic chamber. It's time. The massive chamber fell silent as the holographic image of Emperor Vex materialized in the center of the room. Even as a projection, his presence was commanding. He surveyed the gathered representatives with ancient eyes that had witnessed millennia of galactic history. President Chen of Earth stepped forward. Emperor Vex, this is unexpected. Is it? The Emperor's voice was calm, almost contemplative. You've forced my hand rather effectively, President Chen. Or perhaps I should address the true architect of this rebellion. His gaze shifted to Admiral Reed, who had entered alongside Professor Miller. "This was no single person's work," Chen replied. "Earth united against exploitation, as have all worlds represented here today." Vex studied the diverse gathering. "So I see, an impressive coalition. Tell me, Admiral Reed, what do you hope to achieve? Even with your unexpected technological developments, you cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Empire." Reed stepped forward. "War was never our goal, Emperor. Freedom was, the right of all species to develop on their own terms, without hidden manipulations or exploitation." "A noble sentiment," Vex said, his tone making it clear he found it naive. "But the galaxy is a dangerous place. The Empire provides stability, protection." "At what cost?" interrupted a representative from Talaris, his fur bristling. "The slow draining of our world's resources, the subtle reshaping of our societies to serve imperial interests." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Vex remained silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had lost some of its imperious tone. "For 50,000 years, the Empire has guided the evolution of countless species. We have prevented wars, stopped planetary extinctions, uplifted primitives to the stars. And we're grateful for those contributions," Professor Miller said, stepping forward. "But guidance doesn't require control. Protection doesn't demand submission." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "Every world here has chosen a different path. Not rejection of the galactic community, but true partnership based on mutual respect." The Emperor's expression was unreadable. "And if I refuse to recognize this, Free Systems Alliance," Admiral Reed's voice was steady, "then you'll find yourself fighting an idea, Emperor. And ideas, once spread, are impossible to destroy." The tension in the room was palpable as everyone awaited Vex's response. Finally, the ancient ruler inclined his head slightly. "The Empire recognizes the sovereignty of Earth and its allied systems," he said, each word clearly difficult for him. "A treaty delegation will arrive within the week to establish formal boundaries." As the Emperor's image faded, the chamber erupted in celebrations. Representatives embraced, some weeping with joy, others standing in stunned silence at their unexpected victory. Admiral Reed turned to Professor Miller with a small smile. "You were right." She nodded, watching the celebrations with quiet satisfaction. "The Empire never understood what makes humans different. They saw our creativity as a curiosity, our defiance as a flaw to be corrected. They never realized these qualities would be their undoing." Together they looked out at the stars. No longer distant points of imperial control, but a field of endless possibilities for a new kind of galactic community.